Good Monday afternoon, and thank you for joining us on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Rena Sargentopoulos. Today, House Speaker Lisa Demuth is making her first public appearance, officially announcing her candidacy in Minnesota's gubernatorial race.
I know together that we can build a stronger Minnesota for today and for generations to come. And I look forward to getting to work.
In February, she became the first black lawmaker and the first Republican woman to get the top job in the Minnesota House. She now joins several other Republicans who have launched their campaigns for governor. It includes State Representative Kristen Robbins, 2022 nominee Scott Jensen, and businessman Kendall Qualls.
I think what's really striking, though, is none of the big names. Tim Pawlenty's not stepping forward. None of the Republicans elected to Congress are stepping forward. So it opens it up a bit. And among the other candidates in it, they're each kind of staking out what you might think of as a lane. You've got some who are further to the right, some who are more moderate, or at least sound more moderate.
In response to her announcement, the Minnesota DFL chair issued this statement saying, quote, Lisa Demuth is the corporate candidate in this race. If Lisa Demuth and the billionaires win, Minnesotans lose. We're also tracking tomorrow's election, and here are some of the top races on the ballot if you live in Minneapolis. Mayoral candidates include incumbent Mayor Jacob Frey, State Senator Omar Fatah, as well as Dwayne Davis, Jazz Hampton, and Brenda Short. All 13 city council seats are also on the ballot. If you live in St. Paul, you are also electing your mayor there. Incumbent Melvin Carter seeking a third term against State Representative Cowley Herr, Yan Chen, Mike Hilborn, and Adam Dullinger. And if you live in Senate Districts 29 and 47, you are also voting for two open seats. They were held by former DFL State Senator Nicole Mitchell, who resigned after she was convicted of burglary, and Republican Bruce Anderson, who passed away while in office. The special elections will decide which party controls the state Senate, and today is your last day to vote early in person before those polls open at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. You can find more resources for voting on our website, KARE11.com. Well, when it comes to politics, you're almost always going to see pointed fingers. And with two big Twin Cities mayoral races coming up tomorrow, that is especially prevalent here at home. And by now, you've likely heard a lot of talk by the candidates and about them, too. Today, Michelle Beck helps us cut through that noise.
I came to the University of Minnesota to dissect all the talk around politics in the state today.
Yeah, things that politicians say, obviously, but also what are they saying in their campaign ads? What kind of language are people using on social media?
Dan Myers teaches political science on campus.
Are you able to say Minnesota nice? Is that the tone historically of Minnesota politics? Has it been?
I think historically it's fair to say that there has been a sort of Minnesota, I don't know about nice, but a reserve.
And that's consistent, he says, with the mayor's race in St. Paul.
Minneapolis, on the other hand, we have sort of a two-party system. It is an ideological divide with maybe Frey and Fatah on the two ends and then the other two candidates in between.
Disagreeing is great, as long as it's on the issues. But as he's seen, attacks have gone personal.
You have some national actors coming in and trying to, for example, paint Fatah as un-American because he's Muslim. That's the kind of thing, delegitimizing an opponent, making it seem like they're not a full person. That's the kind of rhetoric that we think is scary and dangerous.
Does this reflect the level of heatedness that we see in New York, for example?
New York's mayoral race also falls on November 4th.
I do think that rhetoric is more heated in New York, probably again because of these cultural reasons, and maybe to some degree because of ranked choice. So Frey and Fatah want to make sure that they don't put off the supporters of Davis and Hampton because they want to get their second choice votes.
Make it make sense to our viewers, right? Why are we talking about political rhetoric? Help them see through the strategy of these politicians.
I think one thing to keep in mind is that rhetoric isn't always bad. Like, rhetoric is what gets your attention, is what makes you care about politics and about issues, and that's really important.
So then what to watch for includes talk that makes the other side seem less legitimate.
Like they're not Americans, or maybe even dehumanizing them. And also rhetoric that tries to frame things for political gain. Politicians have an incentive sometimes to frame things as we're one group, they're another group, and we're fighting, and only one of us can win. And when rhetoric gets into that kind of a space, I hope people are attentive, that they can see what that kind of framing is trying to do and maybe resist it.
Michelle Beck.
Have your antenna out for that.
KARE 11 News.
Today, the Trump administration announcing that it plans to partially fund SNAP food aid for roughly 43 million Americans who depend on those benefits. The decision comes after 2 federal judges ruled late last week that the payments, I should say, to the program must continue. That aid, however, was delayed while this decision was being made, and now the amount of funds people receive is expected to be reduced. It is not known when that money will go out, but it can normally take up to 2 weeks to load beneficiaries' debit cards. Meanwhile, many local businesses are stepping up to help fill the gap, including Hope Breakfast Bar, giving out free pancakes. Its chef says the restaurant will serve free pancakes from 7 to 9 every morning until those SNAP benefits get restored.
We don't know what to expect today, but we brought in a few hundred pounds of pancake mix and about 20 gallons of syrup. So we'll be doing this every day until benefits are restored, and then we'll add more and more Hope locations as we see a need.
If you are a family who needs help, there are more places you can go. The Shakopee Bowl says your kids can eat free at their restaurant, no purchase necessary and no questions asked. You can take part in a community meal at Egg Roll Queen in Little Canada on Wednesdays and Fridays. That's from 3 to 8 p.m. And the Buzz Coffee and Cafe in Burnsville will serve you free chili dinner on Wednesday from 5:30 to 7 p.m. If you're interested, you can sign up on their website. One other impact of the government shutdown, the FAA says this weekend was the worst for air traffic staffing shortages since the shutdown started. From Friday morning through Sunday night, there were 98 instances where controllers had to alter operations to account for fewer people working. The FAA says a surge in controllers calling out on Halloween strained staffing at half of the country's 30 largest airports. NBC's Stephanie Gosk has more from Newark Liberty International Airport.
Newark International has had problems with staff shortages for a while now, creating delays at this airport. But then you take the government shutdown and you put that on top of it, and it was a really tough weekend here. There were over 100 cancellations, people dealing with delays over 3 hours. And of course, it wasn't just here in Newark. It was at airports around the country dealing with the same sorts of issues because of the government shutdown. You had LAX and Nashville have ground stoppages. Also in Houston, there were long delays. And now the Secretary of Transportation is saying this is only going to get worse. Federal workers are a real pressure point at the airports. 2 of them. You have the TSA workers as well as air traffic controllers, and there have been shortages of air traffic controllers before this government shutdown hit. And now people who come to this airport, including here in Newark, they come cautiously optimistic that the day is going to go okay. But as the day goes on, delays and cancellations could stack up again. Back to you.
Today, a man is charged with a second-degree murder after 2 people were shot and killed inside a home in southern Minnesota. It happened around 4 a.m. Sunday in Hanska, which is about 2 hours southwest of the Twin Cities. Dispatchers say they received a 911 call from a boy who told them his mom's ex-boyfriend broke into their house and shot her. The Brown County Sheriff's Office says they located 2 victims, a 50-year-old man and a 32-year-old woman, both pronounced deceased at the scene. Authorities say 45-year-old Randy Zimmerman was arrested last night in Iowa. Zimmerman also has a history of domestic abuse and assault convictions. There is no word right now on the other person who was killed. We have new details this afternoon about a shooting in North Minneapolis that left a boy dead. Happened around 11 last night on Russell Avenue North and North 29th Avenue. Police say a group of teens were having a birthday party in a basement when a boy was shot in the head and died. They say a person of interest is in custody. No one else, thankfully, was injured. And we are learning new details about a mass stabbing on a train in England. Early this morning, police announced they have charged a 32-year-old British man in connection with that attack. Police initially had said yesterday that 2 men were arrested, but they confirmed later that that other man was not involved. 11 people were injured in the attack. Police say 2 of the victims suffered serious injuries. Right now, officials do not believe it was a terror attack. NBC's Molly Hunter, though, has more from London.
The details coming out of this attack are really terrifying. It happened Saturday night, of course, Halloween weekend. Lots of people coming into London for parties. And police say the stabbing rampage started just after the train made the stop at a little town called Peterborough. At that point, eyewitnesses describe indiscriminate stabbing, running down the aisles, and then people yelling kind of run, run, with blood dripping down their face, blood on seats. A couple of eyewitnesses even said they thought at first it was a Halloween prank, of course, again, Halloween weekend, and then they realized it was serious. At that point, 2 people really saved lives. The first is an unnamed rail worker, according to the UK Transport Secretary, who they say detectives and the Transport Secretary has seen video of him attempting to stop the attacker from injuring more people. And the second person is the train driver who made the very quick decision to make an emergency stop at the next train station, Huntington. That allowed police and emergency responders and services to be waiting at that train station just 8 minutes after the first emergency call. We've seen video of police pinning down, actually apprehending, taking 2 men into custody. Well, one of those 2 men has been released. The other, Anthony Williams, he's a 32-year-old from Peterborough. He is in court this morning facing 10 charges of attempted murder, 1 charge of possession of a blade. He is also facing charges, police say, from a previous incident on Saturday of attempted murder. Molly Hunter, NBC News, London.
Over the weekend, U.S. President Trump threatening military action in Nigeria over accusations that its government continues to allow, quote, the killing of Christians. On Truth Social, the president wrote that the U.S. might as well go, quote, guns a-blazing to completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists. President Trump also warned of an immediate halt to all aid and assistance if those attacks continue. Violence in Nigeria has been promoted by 2 main factors, religion and tension between farmers and herders. And while Christians are among those targeted, analysts say the majority of victims of armed groups are Muslims. Nigeria has welcomed U.S. assistance in fighting terrorism as long as territorial integrity is improved. Stick with us. More news and weather coming up after the break.